Hello and welcome to another bonus episode of the Winning with Shopify podcast. For anyone that's not tuned in before, today is the worst day to listen to your first episode. No, I said it very lightly. We're launching something quite exciting today. You've been tuning in for a while. This is what I've been so excited about for probably a year now. As I say, it's a bonus episode and I'm super excited because launch is finally upon us. So today I'm going to reveal all of my secrets, all of my trade knowledge that I've been putting into this, all of my experience, everything else, and also explain who this amazing chap on video with me today is as well. His name's Lee, and he's recently joined the Winning with Shopify team. So Lee, welcome to the show and welcome to the team as well.
Nick, great to be here on the podcast and as well on the team. Super excited.
Well, it's so good to have you with us. Now, to give everyone a little bit of context, we're going to tell a bit of a story today as to why Lee's here, what he's been working on, and then what we're launching today for all of you guys that have been listening for so long and so adamantly tuning in, talking to us, etc., etc. We'll come on to all of that. I'm so excited, as you can probably tell. But I hired Lee and gave Lee a challenge. And the challenge to Lee, probably 3 or 4 months ago now, is I said to Lee, well, look, we've got all these listeners. However, it's a bit of one-way traffic. You know, we're post podcasts. We come up with all these amazing guests, amazing topics, sharing cool insights. You guys give us loads of likes and thumbs ups, and you keep downloading and you subscribe and leave reviews. But we want to make this more two-way. Now, that was my brief to Lee. And one of the reasons we hired Lee is Lee said, well, let's find out what people's actual problems are. So, Lee, tell us the journey that I set you on, where you've been on that journey, and then most importantly, where we've landed today.
Absolutely. Brilliant. So yeah, as you said, Nick, I think we're 4 months deep now into this project. And when you gave me that initial remit of a community, I was totally excited because this is the space I've been in over the last 12 years in tech and community. So absolutely wanted to jump at the chance. However, from my own personal pain, tears, and wasted money, I knew that just launching a community is probably a bad idea. So we decided we're going to do a bit of research with some of the listeners and clients that have been tuning in to really understand their pain points, because there could be a possibility it might be something else. So I spent the first 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, interviewing many of you tuning in and just really trying to understand where you're going in the business, what the pain points are, what does a day-to-day look like, what are some of the present and future challenges you've had. And so it wasn't until we had those numerous conversations that I realized actually it doesn't feel like community right now. What we took away from the research was that many of you felt isolated in your day-to-day operations. There was a big challenge around accessing expertise from some of the technical issues you were having with your site. There was inventory management, and what you needed was quick access to credible expertise immediately. And so we just decided, all right, we're going to focus solely on this problem. Just make this the go-to thing that we become great at. And then what transpired was that actually we do need a community so that we can kind of build this ramp into the service. And so we've spent the last, I'd say, 4 weeks really building something that is engaging. I've worked in community setups. Like I said, over the last 12 years, I've worked with agencies, I've worked with brands trying to build communities, and I've seen the pitfalls so often. And so just bringing this expertise alongside working with the Winning with Shopify team has been amazing. And I feel like we're going to offer something that is going to be of great value.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I absolutely love as well is how full circle we've gone. Because actually Lee's job title, which we'll come on to in a minute because it's evolving, but Lee's job title on day one was going to be community manager. Lee then, as you can hear, came back to me and said, it's not going to be a community, unfortunately, Nick. And I was like, what do you mean? I was really excited to be in a community and be the head of it. This sounds really cool. But we're not, so we decided not to do that and actually to go down the route of how do we solve some of these real problems. And the community's now come back full circle that actually we think a good amount of the answers that you guys are seeking and the support you need is actually from each other. As much as there are things we can do to offer you guys support beyond that. Some of that is just giving you the framework where you guys can discuss. Some of it is where we quite bluntly actually step in and change things. So I'm not surprised that we've come back to a community. It's like, okay, I was right, but for all the wrong reasons, which my wife will say is a regular in our household. So we then came to this point, as Lee says, about pain points. Now, I want to just go through a few of these pain points. So where Lee's been fantastic at, you discovered some of these things, Lee, and come back to me and gone, oh my gosh, you'll not believe what one brand is struggling with. And I'll be like, that's really random. I'm not quite sure actually how we deal with that thing. But one of the things you guys raised a lot actually really was reporting and getting good statistics to make the right decisions. And even when you've got the good stats, what decisions to make. There was time management. So Lee's been using this phrase a lot, like, where a lot of you guys are working in the business, like sending orders out, dealing with customer service, launching advertising campaigns. Actually, you want to be directing from the helm. Now, some of that is a personnel training improvement thing for you specifically. And in other cases, it's like there's fundamental problems within the operation of the business. There are lots of fulfillment challenges, actually getting product from warehouse to Shopify, sold, warehouse to dispatch, delivery, customer, return to happen, refund. It should all be so plain sailing and we're all sold that dream when we started our e-commerce businesses, but it's just not. As well as, the tools that you guys use. So we get so many questions. What's the right app? And the reality is it varies by literally weather, day of the week, who you are, what you know, what your customers do, etc. And as Lee said a couple of times already, actually, is the finding good suppliers, finding good experts to do the right things. Now, being brutally honest, guys, and please don't shoot me for saying this, in my experience, half the time is where the supplier is just not delivering what they should. The other half the time, they're being mismanaged. They're not getting the right communication. They're not getting told on time. I've had a client try and fire us in the past because they said you didn't launch a campaign on time, to which we responded, what on earth is this? No one's told us at all what this campaign thing is. And so you see the breakdown in communication. So back to you, Lee. Talk us through how we're actually going to start solving some of these problems. Like, it's great talking about it, but what we're actually going to do, provide, and what are you guys, our listeners, our soon to be community, what are you guys actually going to be doing to start coming up with some solutions?
Yeah, sure. So it was really clear from the common denominator pain points that people just wanted to be able to access experts that were vetted, that could come through recommendation. What we found was that many of you were kind of wild west in it. So just going online, trying to find a developer and just getting really subpar results. And I think the benefit of what we've been able to do, what I should say Nick's been able to do over the last 10 years is work with incredible brands as well as partners. And so we have an amazing network of expertise in pretty much every domain of e-commerce. And so we've built a fantastic network of people we can access, people that are vetted, industry leaders that have actually agreed to be part of this platform. And so we've already vetted that for you. So you've got instant access to people that can help tailor the needs to your business requirements. One of the things that I've definitely noticed over my period of community building and working with brands is there's this tendency to go into automation really early on. And I get it, like you want to optimize and automate the community so that it's self-sufficient. However, I find that's a really terrible way to start. And so what we wanted to do was to make sure it was very human driven. So you're going to get real human hands-on support. And we're going to be launching a range of webinars, roundtables, hot coaching sessions, so that you can, hot seat coaching sessions, so that you will be able to get really great tailored support towards your businesses. So us as a team, as well as other community members who are going to be in the same sphere as you, is going to be available. So you're going to have this kind of 3 layers of resources, coaches, peers that can help you with your business problems. And so one of the things that I've appreciated, and I know it could be quite biased because I work for the team, is Nick and the team's approach to solving clients' problems. It's one of the few brands and agencies I've seen that are really hands-on and don't provide that cookie cutter service. And for me, I'd like to have really high standard when I am building a community that people feel that personalized experience. And I think Spec and Win Shopify have done a great job of doing that. And so we really want to bring this experience to this platform.
Yeah. And I haven't paid Lee to say that, just to be clear. But we do love we don't love that there is a problem, but we love solving stuff. And I think just one thing I just want to circle back on that it just suddenly sprung to mind that I know is quite key to you guys as well is where Lee says like we'll help find experts, it's we'll help find and introduce an expert. What we're not going to do, and we'll come on in a little bit later about the criteria to kind of get a login to this to the new system. We're not going to let every agency, freelancer, supplier, under the sun that I've ever met, we're not going to let them in the platform at all, probably. They'll record content, they'll be involved in a few other things, which I'm going to talk about in literally about 30 seconds. I'm going to tell you guys what we're actually going to provide through the community beyond just the ability to have conversations and talk to each other. But we're not going to let, it's not going to be, as Lee says, the Wild West. We're not going to let all these agencies in that are just going to be like sell, because that's not my approach. It's not our approach. And it won't help you guys. It will increase the noise. And we're trying to get rid of the noise here. We're trying to bring it down to like, okay, you need this. This is your budget to solve that thing. So this is the right partner. So we'll introduce you and you work from there. That partner will not be in the platform clicking buttons and playing around. So then the big question comes along is like, okay, what are we actually going to provide beyond like, hey, here's a forum? So the platform we're using has a bit of a kind of social media chat feature to it. So you can post and go, hey, happy Monday morning, everybody. I've got this problem, or I've had a ton of orders over the weekend for an out of stock product and I can't fulfill it. All those kind of nuanced things that pop up, you post that, and other brands, as much as you guys will be commenting on other people's posts, you can all start tackling this stuff together. I will step in at times and add my thoughts and add kind of my experience or case study. We did this with one client, and this is what happened. But most importantly, our main involvement really is going to be watching what you guys are talking about, and we're going to respond by bringing an expert in. So some of the things we're going to do are things like we're going to do webinars on a regular basis. So we're going to bring an expert in. I've actually been running webinars at Spec for about 5 or 6 years. And I've had everybody from Richard, who's the CMO at Gymshark, right down to a couple of you guys who I know are going to be initial adopters of the community and are currently testing and playing with it, who have got £15,000 a month of revenue. And you're the complete opposite end to where Gymshark were when he left at £200 million of revenue. And you're sitting at like 200,000. So like there's a complete void there. But we're going to provide these webinars and bring these experts on. There'll be live Q&A. We may even, depending on the size of them, let you guys all join as like literally people on a Zoom call, as opposed to it being almost like a seminar where you sit and learn. We're going to run round table sessions. So if it's a common theme popping up that several of you are dealing with fulfillment issues, we'll get a round table and bring in a fulfillment expert who's going to come and host that round table. And get you guys talking, get you guys sharing ideas, asking, real kind of devil's advocate questions, get you all sharing things. And that will be in kind of small group, all digital, but small group settings. We're also looking at doing like weekly or fortnightly. We haven't quite worked out the format of these things yet. We're going to evolve it as we go, but getting you guys actually on networking calls where it's like, let's just get 30 brands together and just be like, right, run around the room and say where you're from. Right, who's got an issue? Who's got a question? Or is there anything someone put on the form when they registered for today's session that's really striking? Like, oh my gosh, cookies are dying in December of 2024, which is actually coming apparently. I say apparently because Google changed their minds. But stuff like that, well, let's discuss that in one of these little networking, just kind of roundtable regular events. And so we've got these things popping up. We're also looking at stuff as well, where we've got a whole load of coaches that can help coach you guys on a one-to-one basis. We will need to charge for that. Those coaches have bills to pay, they have a day rate, they have time commitments and that kind of thing. But we're looking at providing coaches as well to actually give you some one-on-one coaching off the back of this thing. And we're even looking at the moment, and we're not going to do too many spoilers on this, but there is actually a service that's going to come out from Winning with Shopify over the next few weeks and months, where we can help you on an ongoing regular basis with some of these issues on a much more one-to-one specific basis than just what we can do in a webinar roundtable. So we're trying to provide you with all of this. We did actually build, and I'll be completely transparent and say, Byron, who edits the podcast, you guys probably may have seen him on the odd episode. You probably heard me talk about. Byron and I actually built a whole archive of courses for you all. And then we hired Lee, and Lee looked at it and said, people don't want to sit and go on courses. So like, we are honestly listening to you guys. We are going to put some courses on, but they're going to be very specific to specific problems that are common. So they probably won't be there on day one, but there's a whole section on like submit an idea, submit a problem, ask an expert, all of this exists in there. But there's a whole other element to this, isn't there, Lee, around accountability, mastermind groups, and a few other bits that I know you've
Yeah,
been part of over the years. So tell us more about that as well.
absolutely. This is probably my favorite part of the whole platform. And the reason that is because in my own personal experience, I've noticed the exponential growth I've experienced
Hmm.
personally and professionally when I've engaged in some form of coaching, studies, accountability, or mastermind group. Like everything just goes through the roof for me. There's actually studies that show that you have a 90% increase of achieving your goals if you have some form of accountability. And I could definitely testify to that. I'm part of some accountability
Amen.
and mastermind groups.
Yep.
um, and so we felt it was really important to have this element because we want to see you get results. And so for us, this is going to be a real core tenet of the platform because at the end of the day, you're here to grow your business. And as Nick said, yes, these coaches do have fees, but this is an investment. And like I said, every penny I've invested in coaching, mastermind groups myself, I've always seen a great return on investment. So definitely something to watch out over the coming weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to talk very briefly, guys, about platform growth, and then we're going to give you like the kind of, I think it's about 8 points I'm going to run through quickly of like, what are we actually launching, you know, in terms of, we told you about all the benefits now, but the features, like what are the features you can use? How can you engage? So we'll come on to that as a kind of where we land. But in terms of business growth, when Lee came back with some of this feedback from the sessions, and to be completely transparent, again, I'm so glad we had Lee to do it, not myself, because I am a salesman at heart. I'm a marketing person. I'm here to help you sell products and help me grow my business. And I'm not going to, beat around the bush on that. As I don't run this podcast just because it's really fun. Like we get work from it. We have sponsors and other things that, kind of fall into place around that. And the same for you guys. Like this is about business growth. So actually, if there's a problem that you're kind of aware of and you don't know how to solve it, bang, there's the accountability, the mastermind group of like people saying like, okay, you need to tackle this thing. The problem, and I'll be completely transparent. In my experience, I've been the problem more often than I'd like to admit. Right? It's been my own previous experience that's made me made a bad decision, or it's me going, I'm just looking at money in today and ignoring everything else. And then Byron and Lee and other people are saying like, no, don't take the cash today. Like we need to build something and build it properly. And it comes down to like, do you want £100 now? Do you want £100 million in 10 years? That literally is the equation when it comes to building an e-commerce business. So we're here to help businesses grow. So sometimes there'll be things you guys raise, questions you ask. There'll be a roundtable session and someone will say the thing of like, oh, I just need to solve this problem. And we want to encourage a real kind of sense in terms of accountability of like, is this actually going to make the boat go faster for you? Like, is this the actual problem? Or is this just the thing that's keeping you awake at night because you're an anxious person? Because I used to be super anxious. And the things that kept me awake at night was like, does so-and-so like me right now? And that genuinely was one of the biggest things I had to overcome is being liked. So here I am sitting in front of thousands of people running a podcast thinking, most of you must hate me, but that's fine. I'm cool with it now. I'm just going to keep providing good content. So my point really being is it's about business growth and that accountability, that support, that talking to it's not even the person that's best at meta ads, it's the person that's right for your meta ads right now. That's the expert we want to bring in and that's the person we want to find. And as Lee said, that stems through spec. So some of the times we get inquiries in from you guys and we're like, do you know what? Being completely transparent, you're too small for spec. You don't spend enough, you don't earn enough, you couldn't afford our fees, or you could, but that would put you into loss. That's too much pressure on everybody. Here's an amazing freelancer. And that's me putting my name on that freelancer, say this person's incredible. They'll get you to where you need to go. And when it gets too big, you might come back to us, you might not. But you also might know someone that's going to say, Nick's the most honest person ever. I offered him money and he said, no, I'm not the right resource, go elsewhere. So that really is our intention with this is who's the right provider to help you with that business growth. Right, let's talk features. So we are launching a community. It will have a login page. You log in, you go into the community and you can do stuff. So you will have your own identity on there. You can upload your profile picture, your brand name, all that sort of stuff. I'm going to be really, really transparent and hit home here. It's not going to be for everyone. We're not going to let everybody in. And Lee and I are incredibly sorry for that. even 20 minutes before we recorded this, Lee and I were sitting there going, should we just let everybody in? And we're like, no, we've done the research. It's a hard call. So there is going to be a minimum turnover before we let people into this community. If you're close, just below it, don't be like, do you know what? I just need 20, I'm going to do a sale because I just need like $50 more and I'm above the threshold. Send us the info anyway. We might let you in. If you're below the current required turnover, and I'll show you this in a second, sign up anyway, because we are going to invite you to some things that go on. Certainly more of the like webinar, seminar type stuff, any free resources coming out, anything our partners are doing that is relevant to everybody. That's good. That's our normal newsletter, and that's evolving. So sign up anyway, and we will certainly put you into that flow, and you can check that out. The minimum we've gone for is $20,000 a month, or £20,000 a month of turnover. As I say, if you're at 10, 12, 15 and you're growing nicely, fill out the form anyway. And we might go, do you know what? We're excited by you guys. You must be weeks away from going over that threshold. Or actually, you've put a couple of pain points on your sign-up form. We think you could solve those quite quickly with a bit of Lee's help, Nick's help, people in the community's help. We'll get you above that threshold. The reason we've set that threshold, and again, this is me being, and anyone who's watched this for a while, no, I shoot from the hip, and firm but fair is always my policy. So to be fair but firm here. Some of you guys that are smaller than that, there's a lot you haven't learned. And those aren't the problems that we think we can help you with. And that's why we're setting this benchmark. So if you're not at that level, the problems you've not solved yet is how do I market each of my products correctly so that people do buy it? And now it's a game of how do I get more eyes on screen? How do I shave off those extra friction points to get my conversion rate from 2.2 to 2.4%? It's those kind of margins that are making big differences for the brands that we want to work with. On the higher end, there is no cap. But as I said earlier about Gymshark, for example, 2 of their team are probably looking at joining our community. So I don't know if that helps lure any of you in to come chat to Gymshark. But those guys they're at hundreds of millions, probably heading towards $1 billion per year. So you see that actually, if you're at $50,000 a month and you look at a Gymshark or you look at some of these big global businesses, those guys are going to be in there because, again, part of the research was actually they would benefit from talking to smaller, more agile, nimble brands who are making quick fire decisions and going, all right, to stay ahead of these guys, we're going to have to make these decisions. Or they're all using this tech stack and ours is like completely dinosaur tech. So we need to make some changes to this. So I didn't want to beat around the bush here, but I also didn't want to just go, oh, it's for brands above this point. I think it's really important to say the podcast is still going to be here and it's still doing its thing. We're going to be running these webinars that we've been running at Spec. They're now going to fall under the platform. So do sign up anyway, and we will still invite you to these things. There's still some really, really good value for you guys here. Equally, our new website is going to be live at the time that this goes out. And I'm recording this on Monday, and the website's going to be out before this thing goes live. So Lee and I have got a very busy afternoon. Byron, I can see, is currently in our website, and it is a Shopify store. Yes, we're going to be selling something soon that's super exciting that I'm not talking about today. But we are moving it from WordPress to Shopify. So it's going to be a new website. Go and fill out the form if you have any questions anyway. That ask an expert, ask for advice. I replied to every single message I've received in the last 2 years. So still send messages in, still ask questions, but the community is going to be for £20,000, $20,000 upwards. And you can obviously do a currency conversion to whatever country you're in to work out where you're at. Just fill out the form and ask a couple of questions about this, and we'll let you know if you're ready to come in, if you're not, if you're nearly ready, or actually if we think you're 6 months away from being ready. So we don't want to bring people in that this then distracts them when actually there's some fundamental who we are as a business questions they still need to answer. We're not going to be tackling that kind of stuff, I'm afraid. So sign up anyway if you're below that. We've got this new website coming out. It's super exciting. And that also flows into how we're changing the podcast in July as well. It'll still be very similar. It's still going to be episodes coming out every Friday. It's still free to listen to it. It'll be amazing guests. We're just going to change some of the content around a little bit based, again, on feedback that Lee's picked up, feedback that Byron's picked up, and feedback from me talking to some of you guys as well. So if you do want to sign up, which should be all of you, whether you're above or below that threshold or even near it, head over to winningwithshopify.com, click on the page called Community, fill out the form. What we are going to be doing initially, and this is so we can get best value, we're going to start this as a waiting list. So when you guys sign up, and this again was Lee's idea of going, do you know what, if we just open the thing up, it's going to be the Wild West. Let's evolve this and evolve the volume of people on it. And the bigger it gets, the more people will chuck in. And our aim is in a few months' time to just have it where you just fill out a form, we moderate you. In the same way, we're not going to let agencies in, we're not going to let brands that are too small into the community, we're going to support them in other ways. But we want you to fill out that form. And even in a few months, you still won't get access straight away. There'll be a moderation. We don't want to wake up one morning and find that 50 of the most, cowboy agencies have joined and are messaging all of you like crazy on the platform and trying to get in touch with you. We're going to make sure that never happens. So there is quite a high level of moderation, and that is part of Lee's job going forward is moderating that and engaging with you guys. So there is going to be a waiting list. There's currently a small group of people that have been our focus group, mostly the people that Lee's been talking to. They're playing around with it. They're finding bugs all over the place. They're suggesting, okay, this doesn't really work for that. I don't think I would ever use this. This is all valuable feedback. And what we're going to do is keep drip feeding more and more of you guys in from the waiting list over time. So you probably won't be on it for more than a few weeks, is our hope. Unless we found a big problem, we'll fix it, then we'll let you guys in so you can see the better products. But going back to right at the heart of this, the first thing that Lee and I were both talking about on today's episode is this is for you guys. We're not here to start chucking more stuff down your throat, to start putting partners and sponsors and stuff in front of you. They'll be involved, but this is about you guys connecting, you guys getting more value from this. So final question to yourself, Lee, is there anything else we need to tell these guys today to get them to go and fill out the form, join the waiting list and get ready?
Good question. I think you have to ask yourself, can you afford not to do this? Like I said, the research is there in terms of being amongst like-minded peers, having coaching, having the resources, and having an agency that has spent 10 years servicing over 1,000 brands as an extension of your team. Can you really afford not to? That would be my question to you.
Amazing. And I couldn't agree with that more. There's only one final thing I need to say, guys, and I've been holding this off until now. It's free. So go join. Absolutely no reason not to. Go, again, whatever size brand you are, fill out that form, join our database, and we'll start sending you free stuff. But anyway, it's been such a pleasure after all these months, Lee, to finally announce your existence to the whole network. So thank you so much for your time. And I hope you've enjoyed my new podcast studio as well. I've relegated myself to the meeting room today for recording. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, mate. It's been great to have you.
It's been an absolute honor and super excited for this community and all the great things we're going to be able to deliver for them. I'm super pumped. So thank you.
Amazing. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I know it's midweek. I know it's not really normally our style. It's normally every Friday. We're back next Friday. We've got an incredible guest as well. I'm recording it in about an hour or two's time. So I'm super excited for that. And I will be back in the podcast studio for that one. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hope you're excited by it. winningwithshopify.com, click the community button, fill out the form. Looking forward to meeting a lot of you in the community very shortly. Thanks for tuning in.